I often wonder if you can get this kind of ethereal feeling again. I mean, it's one thing to feel, imagine how it would have been to compose this music and to have listened to it in the year of its release and the years following its release, the 1990s and the 2000s. There was something about experience then which is different now, and I get into slight disagreements with friends of mine about this, but I would insist that there is a difference between what it must have felt like to live in the 20th century versus now. Older people certainly insist that there's a difference. It feels like there must have been a difference. Let me elaborate. Prior to the internet, heck, prior to social media, there was this sense of the world being what you saw it as. Even the internet in the 2000s, the computer was this room in your house, you know what I mean? You went to it and it was like a little library in your home. It supplemented the real world that you walked around in rather than defined it. Now it feels as though the real world is subject to the information we read on our computer screens, which have now been transferred to smartphones everywhere. Now, like social media, it's like a higher realm of consciousness and knowledge, alleged knowledge, that supersedes the experience of walking around in the real world. There's almost never a sense that you're doing what is most appropriate or fulfilling because, you could go on the internet and you could find some more fulfilling thing. You could find some opinion that's telling you you're garbage for doing that and you ought to be doing this instead. All those opinions are out there now. Are they valid? Like, who ought you be following? There's millions of voices out there and they're all, telling you in some way, or many of them are telling you in some way that what you're doing is absolutely wrong. You ought to be doing this, or that, or all of those. It's nuts. Maybe the 20th century was like that as well in its own way. Maybe magazines and newspapers, maybe physical media did occupy this place in a similar fashion, and I would have felt similarly in the 80s or 90s. It's just, I hope so. I'd love to feel more optimistic than not. I guess there's always a certain submerged anxiety that there's something else I could be doing that's more productive. I've got the internet in front of me. I could be doing this. Why are you listening to that? Okay, the reason you listened to some piece of music back in the day is because there's nothing else to do but get a CD collection. And before, like, YouTube, you could only get so much music. Before YouTube in, the mid-late 2010s, you could only get so much music anyway, legally. Off the internet, I mean. Now we're sitting here, we have everything we want, and we're all like emperors. We're all like these medieval kings and oriental emperors. It's just absurd. We have the privileges that, centuries of human beings would have... decades of humans in the 20th century would have yearned after, and here we are. It's okay. It feels a bit mundane at times, doesn't it? If you had told individuals in 1991 what 2021 would be like, I don't know how pleased they would be to hear. MBV, the kind of melancholy which people would, feel comforted with or validated by when listening to this album, it brings out your emotions. Yeah, but those emotions are, even if they were sad, melancholic emotions, they're all preferable to the kind of anhedonias of the 2020s, you understand. It's like, if you feel, about relationships and you don't know what to do, you don't know what she's feeling, blah, blah, blah. But, the relationships are kind of seemingly more straightforward then. They didn't exist within a praxis of quantified approval on social media. There wasn't this prism wherein everyone felt as though they needed to adhere to some Instagram lifestyle or even just a basic Facebook lifestyle. There was no... People were just, living. They were just going by a path that they chose. Not that was chosen by the consensus on social media. There's this network of the supposedly successful, which everyone wants to filter their own apparent, progress or accomplishment throughout life. And I think one dismisses their own confidence and beliefs about what might entail their happiness in lieu of what the expectations of others might entail, because surely if they were doing well, they would be, it would be quantified in terms of likes and positive comments on a social media platform. No one is interested in the mystery and the kind of magic pool of emotions anymore. They're more interested in the kind of neurological impulses and the relief of anxiety which social media kind of gives to us. But it's a stress which was enforced and delivered and enabled by social media in the first place. And sure, one could just shut it all out. One could just pretend to keep going forth like nothing ever changed, like the 2000s or 90s or wherever. But experience is still a plane which takes place in reality and not in this abstracted world, projecting one's success digitally. The fact is that it is difficult to encounter people who are not terrified and paralyzed by that fear, by this prism. People don't know how to be happy unless they're winning on social media as they see it. Best house, best car, best spouse. If they're really happy deep down, you know they wouldn't be showing it off on social media, right? You are aware of that, aren't you? What would you be if you had all of that? Would you be showing it off on social? What would you be doing? No, you'd be. No, of course you wouldn't. You'd be spending time with what you have. You'd be enjoying it. You wouldn't feel the need to present it to the world because I need their approval. Oh, the strangers. It's absolute insanity. I miss the prospect of a world, and it still existed up to the year 2010, so I was aware of it for a time, of a world wherein all that existed, all that you were aware of, all that you didn't even consider anything beyond the plane of existence of what you saw. The internet was a way of understanding it better. It wasn't this place wherein one needed to project these superficial accomplishments. I think people who would have been otherwise more carefree and pursued their own dreams in life are now paralyzed and just petrified at the prospect of, because they know that if they put their things out there, like, it could be, just criticized and ridiculed on social media. Everyone will see it. It's one thing if all these newspapers belittle it. It's another thing if all their friends, everyone they've ever known, can see it and like, what will they think? What will people think? What will people think? Like, before social media, like, what will people think? It's like people wouldn't know. In your mind, you didn't think it was logical to worry about what people thought as much. And I think there are people, and there were always a certain fraction of people who would, of course, but there was always a little smaller fraction of people who wouldn't care. And I think that number has shrank significantly. I know that there are people who, I've spoken to people who disagree with me about this, but here's the thing, like, you can't just walk around in the real world and find people who want to, create in the real world as opposed to kind of conform to a kind of banal career in the real world so that they can present a kind of archetypal lifestyle on social media of kind of, materialist capital success. It's garbage. The thought of any Australian filmmaking or new wave or abundant music scene now is unimaginable because people are too afraid to do anything. Simple as that. And it's not because of any, like, cancel culture nonsense. Like, long before that became a term, people were just terrified of people just saying nasty things to them on social media, or them just not being approved, or it just not getting likes, and what are they thinking? That's all it takes. Forget anything called cancel culture. It's not. Who cares? You just get off Twitter. But maybe the world needed to change. Maybe this is the next step. But it feels like a step in the wrong direction, frankly. The only way one can interpret our situation as a society and a culture right now as being a positive is if things need to get worse before they can get better. And maybe that just needs to happen. Maybe that's some just acceleration, this dangerous thought, but maybe this is what it is. Maybe the most superficial lifestyles in human history need to occur so that the next generation will know what to avoid. I mean, one needs to set a horrible example of original sin, right? Even when you're just trying to relax and listen to something, there's always like, I should be doing this instead. I can listen to whatever I want. I could do this instead. Or you can just imagine all these people or things criticizing. Maybe I've just hung around too many, like, pieces of garbage over the years. You know who you are. But there's just such a misery entailing. It's just like people are very bitter about others' happiness, and they want to kind of, like, parasitically attack it over the internet and then kind of gain it for their own. It's so transparent. But fear not, I have the solution. We just need to don't necessarily shut the screen, but just carry on. Keep going. It's not over yet. You know what? Imagine how we always talk about how great the decades prior to the 2010s were. It's because our perspectives are different. Let's kind of return to that perspective a little bit. That optimism. Do you remember that? What happened to that? Oh, wait, yeah. We never found a solution to climate change. See, here's the thing. In 2007, I thought by 2017 I kind of hoped we'd have it solved by now. you know, and then that's when, you know, I was in primary school in 2007, and then they're going, older people are going, the teacher's going, it's going to be up to your generation to fix it. And then, you know, to some degree, Miss Funberg kind of rightfully cried, how dare you, you lazy bastards, putting this on us, all your debt. How dare you? Ted Kaczynski wasn't just edgy, he might have been right, which is just annoying for everyone. Oh, if you haven't heard this album and you were not young when it came out, or you weren't born after this album came out, it's not going to be an easy listen. Oh man, be open-minded. Try and be open-minded, I guess. Damn. Though, it may be off-putting, don't ignore the urge to listen to it again. That may happen. If you haven't yet turned off this video, I applaud your perseverance. Now go forth, have a happier day. This video will end, so we can only improve from here.